Hey Cleveland, this is Anderson Varejão of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You are listening to the Sports Fix.
You are the voice of the Sports Fix. So pick up your phone now and call 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix at AOL.com. That's thesportsfix at AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running with today's edition of the Sports Fix. We're wrapping down the week here, man. It's already Thursday, you guys. Welcome in. I'm feeling good. It's been an early morning. Got a ton of things done here this morning. Want to thank Big Len Williams from 890 KJME. It's NBC Sports Radio in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Had me on the Score Morning Show this morning as they're doing their spring training previews, and they wanted to talk some Indians baseball today. So, matter of fact, I'll talk more about it a little bit later when Mike Brandenberry joins us. But I went ahead and put my first official prediction for the season down on the Indians. And, I don't know. Might have been a little bit of rose-colored glasses there, but I don't think so, man. I'm sticking with it. I'll tell you right now. I went on the air. I said, he said, give me a number. I said 89-90 wins. That's what I'm looking for out of this Indians team, man. I'll tell you what, I predicted they win the Central Division, and I'll predict the same thing here on the show. I talked a lot about all the reasons why and some of the things that have to not happen for that to happen for the Indians. But thanks to Big Len, great time this morning. As a matter of fact, well, you guys listen to the Sports Fix, so you kind of know about this already, but he asked me, I think it was 2 questions, might have got to question number 3, and then I just proceeded to go from there. And by the time I was done answering, I think it was the second question, he said, well, that wiped out every question I had. Rather comprehensive, long answer. I said, man, I do a radio show too. So just like you, I get going, and you know how it is, brother. But they loved it. We slammed it. So thanks again, you guys. Cool to be on NBC Sports Radio out in Colorado, representing Cleveland, talking some Indians baseball. We're going to talk some Indians baseball again here just a little bit on the show as Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com joins us here in hour number 1 of the show. Doug Plagans of the Lake Erie Monsters. He's down in the Lone Star State of Texas. He's going to pop in for a visit here as we talk to Doug Plagans about the Lake Erie Monsters week that is, as they're down right now as we speak in the middle of a 4-game getaway to Texas. Didn't start well yesterday as they dropped one 6-4 to the Texas Stars. We're going to talk to Doug Plagans about that a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk a lot of things. March Madness, Indians, tons of basketball stuff, NFL free agency. Phones are already ringing. I would say we should get off and rolling with this thing, man. Should we do it or what? Welcome into the Sports Fix, guys. I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers. Call me any of the above, or you can make up your own little nifty nickname if you'd like. I don't care, because if you're here, you can call me anything you want. Thank you guys for being here each and every weekday at noon, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Maybe that means you're enjoying us on our home base. I'm going to flip it on you today. TheSportsFix.net. Maybe you're there. Hey, maybe you guys heard us this morning on NBC Sports Radio out in Colorado. Maybe you're tuning in to check us out for the first time. Thank you guys if you are. Maybe you're listening on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio and mobile app worldwide, or Spreaker and Mixler and their respective apps out there. So many of you guys enjoy the show live each day, and many of you listen as well. Thousands of you around the world each day on digital delay, on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio service, on iTunes. You download us and subscribe there. Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, all of the places, SoundCloud, all the different places you feed, subscribe, download the show. Thank you guys, as always, for doing the thing and for getting your fix, baby. You know it. Get your fix. Be a part of the show. Already got callers on the phone. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. That's the number to call, baby. If you can't get through to the phones, social media, blow it up like you guys always do. Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix, or just box and search for The Sports Fix there in your little search box on Facebook, or tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us thesportsfix@aol.com. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us thesportsfix@aol.com. A lot of things to get into. March Madness, of course, in full swing at all levels. On the college level, as all these conference tournaments are going on, hey, Ohio State, we know what they're going to do here is they've got their Big Ten tournament getting started for them. They've got Minnesota, who took care of their business yesterday. OSU now has to win 4 games in 4 days if they want to win the Big Ten tournament. Winner of this one has Michigan State looming tomorrow. It gets no easier at all for Ohio State as they begin their part of the Big Ten tournament. That game's going to be tonight. Man, lots of hoops. We'll talk about it later. Cavs and Spurs have center stage of the NBA world tonight. MAC tournament going on at the Q, and some good games on tap today, you guys. If you're a college hoops junkie, you probably don't need me to tell you to get down to the Q here. Some good games yesterday. The women's bracket playing out just to form as the top 6 seeds all advance here. But, man, couple of good ones on tap today in the men's bracket. Kent State and Akron. I mean, always a rivalry game as it is. One of the better ones in the MAC and in this area. And both teams, 20-game winners, they're going at it today. I think that game is, I think it's the 9 o'clock. Well, it's the second game, so it'll start a half an hour after the first game, which is another good one. Toledo and Eastern Michigan. Toledo, even though they only finished 19-12, just short of the 20-win mark, another team right there in that area. They're the 4th-seeded team in this tournament. That's going to be a couple of good games, you guys, at the Q, man. This is a college basketball junkie dream there when you got all those games. I love it. And then, of course, the big tournament coming here, too. We'll talk more about that when we get to it, but a lot of college basketball stuff going on in the area. High school tournaments going. Matter of fact, I've got a game tonight. I'll be on the radio on 1330 tonight, broadcasting Menor High School as their next step in the tournament. They've got a tough one on tap tonight. Warren Harding and Menor. I'll be broadcasting that game. 6:45 is the pregame show. 7 p.m. will be the tip-off live on 1330 a.m. WINT, on WINTradio.com, on TuneIn. I'll tell you guys about that a little bit later on here, but and I love it. I called some basketball action last week. Good stuff there as I watch Willoughby South end of their season, unfortunately. But man, it's that atmosphere. It's crazy. It's every bit the same there, and as it is on the college tournament level. And broadcasting it was quite a fun experience. Looking forward to tonight. And hey, next week will be good too. If Menor advances, I'll call a couple of games next week from down at the press row on press row down at the Wolstein Center down at CSU. Go to Al Pulowski's stomping grounds down there, call some basketball. So I'll be pulling for Menor to win this one here today. Keep those games going next week. We'll talk about that. Tons of basketball stuff. Speaking of NCAA tournaments and brackets and bracket challenges and all of that stuff, we've got one. For those of you that are a regular Sports Fix person, you know we did it for the last few years, and we're going to bring it back again. The Sports Fix ESPN Tournament Challenge. We're using ESPN because they do all the work, and it just makes it so much easier for everybody. It's really simple how you enter. You just go to ESPN.com, enter their tournament challenge, find our group. It's the Sports Fix. That's it. Just search their groups for the Sports Fix, and you enter our group, and you enter your bracket into our group. Last year we had a really fun, competitive deal. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs throughout the tournament. We had a prize pack this year, another Cleveland Sports prize pack. I know I've got a couple of surprises I'll throw in there, but I'm going to throw in a 2-pack from Vince McKee, the newly re-released Cleveland's finest, and his brand new one, LeBron James, Redemption of the King. I'm going to throw both of those in there as well. So we're going to have a Sports Fix Cleveland prize pack here for the winner of the tournament. Free to enter, all fun and games, good stuff for everybody. So go check it out. Go on to ESPN.com. Hate to give them the traffic, but it is what it is. Go to ESPN, go to their tournament challenge, enter the group The Sports Fix, and drop your bracket there. Obviously, you won't be able to fill out your brackets until after this weekend when the brackets get officially put together, but as soon as they do, but go in now, register your spot, go in on Monday, fill out your brackets, and this thing's going to get off and running next week. Talking about that too, I don't know if you guys have heard some of these numbers tossed around. They're estimating that the total number of brackets filled out by people in the United States this year will be, this is nuts when you think about what I'm about to say, will be greater than the number of ballots cast in the last election for President Obama. I mean, that'll show you the level that this thing is on with filling out brackets. They're expecting almost the American Gambling Association today did some research, left out some numbers, and 40 million Americans are expected to participate in bracket tournaments just like ours. They expect that more than 70 million brackets will be filled out, and approximately $9 billion will be wagered on the NCAA tournament. That's more than double of what the American Gambling Association says was bet on the Super Bowl here in the United States. The Super Bowl total was just under $4 billion. That is absolutely amazing. They say that 40 million Americans like you and I will fill out at least one bracket, with the average American filling out two. The average cost that people wager per bracket is $29. Of that $9 billion that they were talking about, nearly $2 billion of that is strictly money that they estimate is wagered in office pools around the nation. I mean, we used to do at WHK. I was always the guy that did the bracket tournaments and went around and got everybody's brackets and collected the money. I'm sure you guys all either do that or have participated in that, or well, I'm pretty sure that I know our demographic. If you're listening to the Sports Fix, if you're going out of your way to listen to our broadcast because we're not on terrestrial radio, odds are you may be the kind of guy that fills out a bracket. So you're probably right in the pipeline with this stuff. But that's some pretty interesting numbers when you look at that. Of course, because of sports gambling not being legal everywhere, 7 of those $9 billion bet are expected to be done illegally here on the tournament. But yeah, just some crazy numbers. You know, employers say all over that the production just plummets during the NCAA tournament. Everybody knows it. The week before, everybody's running around collecting brackets, collecting money. During the first week, everybody's watching games at every hour of the day, sneaking it. Everybody knows, the bosses know about the boss button now, so you need to invent a new boss button, because everybody knows about the boss button now, where it changes your screen and puts the fake screensaver or the fake spreadsheet or whatever on your screen. But this is that couple week period that employers all over dread when you start getting into that lack of production that comes with the NCAA tournament. But we're gonna throw ours in there too. If you're one of those 40 million Americans looking for a bracket challenge, join ours. Jump over on the ESPN Tournament Challenge and find the Sports Fix group. Make sure you get your bracket in there today. I was having some fun as we were going on the show here today. I'm going to be all over the place in the first segment, but having some fun here. The Indians announced this morning they've come up with the name for the new bar that they're installing there with the construction, the 2-story deal, and they're calling it The Corner, as in for the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. And it's a cool little logo that they got. But on Twitter, Indians Twitter, having some fun. I do like how creative some of the cats out there can get on Indians Twitter. Especially, you get so much negativity that sometimes the fun. So people are naming drinks on the hashtag drinks at the corner. People have just been inventing all kinds of drinks that are tied into the Indians. There's actually some funny ones, like somebody came up with the Fausto Carmona, says it's a rum and coke, but it's actually a screwdriver, stuff like that. So I dropped in one. I dropped in the Lenny Barker, made with a triple serving of 151 that only the strongest can drink, but thousands more will say they did it too. Of course, in reference to, only the hardest of the hardcores being there for the legendary perfect game. But everybody in Cleveland will tell you they were there now. But anyways, that's a good little throwback to the tradition there and a good little nod of the hat to Tom Hamilton and his trademark expression there. Indians continuing to plug away. I'm looking outside this morning, seeing that snow melt and the ground really clearing up. And the first thought in my head was, man, that's great for construction down at Progressive Field because they really need this weather to break quickly and really give them as much open laid out here weather-wise as they can heading up to the start of the season so they can go ahead and knock everything out. But all kinds of stuff in the news here. We've got Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com joining us just about 15 minutes from now. Some NFL free agency stuff to get. You know what? I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. I do want to talk for a minute. I'm actually a little, I don't want to say befuddled, but yeah, whatever. We'll get into that in a minute. But I'm going to go to the phones first before I go off in a different direction. Caller, you've been waiting patiently on hold for a few minutes. What's happening? What's your name? Where you from?
Big Daddy, how are you doing,
Big
baby?
Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. How you been doing, man? You've been MIA for a while.
Looking out the window, too, Big Daddy.
What's happening?
Watching that snow melt. Getting ready for the young Indians, man.
Your young Indians, baby. It all starts with baseball.
Baby.
How you feeling about the Indians so far, Big Bob?
What's that now?
How you feeling about that tribe so far?
I am feeling all the way in 2015 about the young Indians, barring one thing, and you know what that is, injuries.
Absolutely.
But,
absolutely.
We have the pitching.
And we already kind of got a little bit of that already. Hopefully we don't have to experience too much of it.
Yeah. Well, you know something, to tell you the truth. Tell me the truth. I really wasn't too high on Gavin Floyd.
You know what? I knew you were going to say that because, when we signed him, you didn't like it.
I didn't like that one, but, that's how the Indians have been going the last several years.
Well, not just that. Listen, man, I mean, I really didn't have a problem with the effort. It's not like the Indians tied up a whole bunch of resources where we're going to go, oh, man, they can't spend any money because it's tied up.
Absolutely.
I thought it was a good shot, and I really did. I was hopeful that he could bounce back and fill a very important role, just being an innings eater for the tribe. But it is what it is.
He still can, possibly.
Well, I don't think this season is really in the realm of possibility here. Maybe you can get something in the second half of the season, but you really can't even plan on it. You've just got to kind of pretend that he's out of the picture for this season and move on.
Oh, yeah.
You have to, I'll tell you what worried me a little bit is, and it's early, but, Danny Salazar, his couple of starts have been kind of Danny Salazar-ish. You've seen some of the good, but you've seen some of the bad, and yesterday I thought maybe we might see a good focused effort because he knew, hey, a spot just opened up here, another opportunity, and a little taken aback. Yeah, but it is what it is. It's still spring, but I still have question marks about Danny Salazar more than some people do, and I don't think it's a guarantee that he ends up in any of those 5 spots.
Yeah. Very well could be, Big Daddy.
They all have to step it up because, like Bruce just said in the chat room, I mean, Bauer had his moment too. He looked great for 3 innings, and then boom, 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 gave up those 3 home runs.
Absolutely.
In the 4th inning. So I'm not in any way just picking on one, but those guys, somebody's got to grab it. I don't want, for the Indians, I don't want it to be whoever is the least bad ends up with the spot.
Oh, yeah.
Go get it. Somebody go grab that spot and take it, instead of the best of the worst ends up with the spot.
Oh, yeah, but I'll tell you what. We got that low rider sleeper.
Which
Mr.
one?
House,
There's a couple
that crafty
of them.
lefty.
Which one? There's a couple. You talking about Bruce Chen?
No, I'm talking about
House.
House.
TJ House? Absolutely. Well, TJ House is on the front end. That's a young end. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely,
I think House
man. He's
right there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's going to do it. He's going to do it for us this year.
Absolutely. But that's where some of that depth comes in. So early on, good stuff to see. And the other thing, and I'm going to talk about all of this in just a few minutes with Brandon Moss, or with Mike Brandenberry, is Brandon Moss. Again, you see that the way the ball's coming off of his bat early on, you love it. If he can stay healthy, really exciting. I mean, obviously, that's the question with him. Can he stay healthy? But early on, Not just hitting a home run, not just hitting a big triple. The ball comes off of his bat. You like it. You like the way he's swinging
it's popping.
You know?
It's popping.
Early. It's too early to get all excited, but that's a very good start for him.
Absolutely. He's got, like you said, number one, health-wise. They've got to stay healthy.
That's the biggest
And Michael
key.
Bourne, too. I'll tell you. I mean, he's had such bad luck with us.
That's funny that you mentioned Michael Bourne.
He's just got to stay healthy, and he's got to swipe some bases for us.
I talked about him this morning. I did a hit on NBC Sports Radio out in Colorado. I was previewing the Indians with them, and I really focused a little bit on Michael Bourne and said that's a guy that I think is going to go a long way to what the Indians do, good or bad, is if he can get way more than Nick Swisher. Nick Swisher, to me, is if you don't get anything, you don't get anything. But if you don't get anything out of Michael Bourne, you won't have a 90-win season. You won't have a playoff-type season. That's my opinion because
I agree with you also. Also, big guy, I agree with you. He's our table setter. He's our table setter. He's got to come through.
And I like what we've seen from him in spring training, too. Getting on base, getting his bat on the ball. He's got more spring in his legs. He appears to be, at least early, as you should be. Early in spring training, you should appear to be healthy. But the Indians made a concerted effort. They asked him, and I got to give credit where credit's due. Some veterans are set in their ways when it comes to how they train, how they get ready for the season. The Indians came to Michael Bourne, who I would say you could consider him a veteran at this point. He's been around for a while. And they said, hey, we'd like you to go outside your box. We know you've been dealing with some leg stuff. We've got a sprint guy, a track coach that's worked with Olympic athletes. We think maybe it would be really good for you to work with this guy. And he said, you know what? I'll give it a try. I'll do something different. And
Fabulous.
He did. He opened himself up to a different kind of training. I don't know if it's going to pay benefits. I hope it does. But not everybody will do that. Some guys will say, hey, you know what? I've been doing this for a while, and I think I'm going to stick to my routine. And he said, no, I want to be Michael Bourne, and I know that there's stuff we can do. So, because like Bruce just said in the chat room, he's got to be, it's easy to say Lofton and make comparisons. You don't have to be that good, but be along those lines. Give me Marquise Grissom. I'll be happy with that, Give me that leadoff hitter that the Indians need. And then Brandon Moss gives us the cleanup hitter that the Indians need. That's a lineup you don't want to mess with when you fill in the gaps in between. So that's going to be really key there.
Absolutely. And like you said, they got this track coach. He was open to it. And like a good veteran, he said, sure. Positive.
I mean, that's opening up your mind, So
absolutely.
We'll see. Big Bob, anything else right here before we roll on?
Yes.
What do you got?
Our Cleveland Browns. What the heck is going on?
You just took the conversation.
How can we not sign Brian Hoyer?
I know.
And Buster Skrine. How could we let him walk?
Let me jump in. Let me bust in. Let me bust in there, man. Buster Skrine got paid from the Jets, and that's the one the Browns said that they didn't. Okay, I'll pause Hoyer for a second. Skrine's the one that the Browns said, we're willing to lose Hoyer. We're willing to lose Sheard. We are not willing to lose Buster Skrine. We want to keep him. To me, the money that he was offered was right in the range of what people thought he was going to get. It didn't even go as high as I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to go a little bit higher, and they didn't sign him. I don't get that one.
I don't get it.
You brought up Hoyer, and I know we're not going to go into that argument because brother is a Houston Texan now. But I find it. Here's what I find amazing: that the Browns gave more guaranteed money to Josh McCown than Brian Hoyer ended up getting from the Houston Texans.
I just don't understand it. Yeah,
that I don't get. Like, it's not like you spent more money on a worse quarterback just because his name wasn't Brian Hoyer. But whatever, we're done with it. It is what it is. Him and Hoyer and Mallett will go battle in Houston. We mentioned it yesterday. Hoyer's deal, it's almost $11 million, but only about 5 of it's guaranteed. We'll see if he's still on the team next year.
4.75, yeah.
He'll collect almost 5 for sure. And then next year, if he's not the starting quarterback, they'll cut him because they're going to owe him about $5.5 million next year. So they'll probably cut him if he doesn't win the starting job and keep it by next season. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
About that. But here's the other one that gets me is Sheard. They let Sheard go, and I'm just going to say, don't call me a genius, but I did predict him going to the Patriots a couple of weeks ago right here on the show when nobody was talking about it because I knew he would be the perfect guy to go into that linebacker end linebacker rotation that they've got there in New England. They sub 70% of the time in their linebacker substitutions and situational substitutions there, and I just knew that him and Rob Ninkovich and the couple of other guys, Chandler Jones, they've got a couple of other guys that he's going to jump right in there. I'm going to say it now, you guys. Next year, and I'm not just talking about Browns. I'm talking about in the entire NFL. It will be one of the 5 best free agent signings in the entire offseason. It's under the radar, but he's going to go there, and he's going to play extremely well for Bill Belichick. Mark it down. And that's another one that I don't understand because the Browns supposedly let him go because they couldn't find a spot for him because he's a 3-4 linebacker, but they brought in Trent Cole for a tryout, and he's a 3-4 linebacker who's older than Jaball Sheard. You drafted Jaball Sheard. He's got 21 sacks in the 3 seasons since you drafted him. Yeah, he was hurt last year, and you kept him out of the rotation some points last year, but he still has more sacks than anybody else you've had for the last 3 years, but he wasn't good enough. He doesn't play like a Brown, but apparently he plays like a Patriot. That bothers me. Way more than Hoyer. That bothers me because Hoyer was a free agent, even though he was a local guy. Jaball Sheard, Buster Screen, those are drafted guys. You have to develop and keep your own drafted guys or you will never be any good. Never be any good because they come, they learn, and they leave. They come, they learn, and they leave. And that's what just happened again. I truly think people are panicking about the wrong positions and then quietly watching a guy like Jaball Sheard leave. That one bothers me. Some people yelled at me yesterday and said, Jerry, you're nuts. He had 2 sacks last season. He's injury prone and he's on the way down. I say, well, I'll tell you what. He's going to fit perfectly in with what they want him to do in New England. He's not going to get 10, 15 sacks a season down there. He's going to get his tackles. He's going to get himself a half a dozen sacks or whatnot. And guess what? He's going to play in playoff and perhaps Super Bowl level football. Everybody that left the Browns, by the way, is probably looking at playoffs next year. I know the Jets are a team in transition, but man, their defense got a whole lot better by picking up Revis and picking up Screen and Houston. I think Hoyer is going to help lead Houston with that defense that they've got to a championship, and so look at that. Just like DeQuell Jackson and Josh Cribbs end up on the Colts last season and so on and so forth. I love it for them because they came here. A guy like Jaball Sheard, he played here. He kept his mouth shut, never got in trouble. He was never in the news. Absolutely. He was never in the headlines. He didn't complain about all the different coaches. He didn't complain about being benched for draft picks when he was outperforming them. And then you let him walk quietly. And I think you need in your locker room. You need him. He plays like a Brown. Absolutely. Jaball Sheard plays like a Brown. And here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest about this, and I dare any of you guys listening to, when we get off the show, go look this up on the internet. Go look up. I guarantee you, because I can find them in my emails, when the Browns do their press conferences every Monday during the season, I heard the Browns, Mike Pettin and Ray Farmer, I guarantee you will find a sentence this year where they said, we love Jaball Sheard because he epitomizes the words play like a Brown. We love Buster Screen because he epitomizes the phrase play like a Brown. They used that term about all 3 of those guys that walked away this year. They said, this is why we love Buster Screen, Jaball Sheard, Brian Hoyer, Gutty, plays like a Brown. And that makes it really hard for you to throw that catchphrase back up at the next group of draft picks, you want to know why a guy like, and I'm not sticking up for Josh Gordon, but if you want to know why Josh Gordon doesn't respect your rules and doesn't respect the organization, that's why. Because he knows these are the things that happen, and I'm not jumping on the Browns. I'm really not piling on right now. I'm just saying this is just really, it just speaks for itself. Dan Wismar said it best yesterday. Tone deaf is the best way to put it for the Browns. It's not that I'm not saying that they're making a million mistakes, but they don't care if you think they do. They're going to do it their way, and they're going to charge you more money to see it. By the way, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, and I'm just going to ask you one question before I let you go, Big Bob. Yesterday, Dan Wismar sent his check out to the Browns for his season ticket renewal. Everybody listening that is a Browns season ticket holder right now, they've got about 24 hours left. They have 24 hours left to get their renewal in. It's got to be in by, I think, noon tomorrow for them to renew their Browns season tickets. Cleveland Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com, did a poll here today. And, I mean, it's not a huge sample size. There's a couple of hundred people that have replied to it so far. But the question that they asked was, will you renew your Browns season tickets? And they actually asked you to say how many seats you've had, how much your tickets cost, how many years you've been there. And I'm looking right now down my list. 16-year season ticket holder, not renewing. 30-year season ticket holder, not renewing. 15-year season ticket holder, not renewing. Here's another 30-year season ticket holder, not renewing. Of the 175 or 200 or so names on this poll so far, anonymous poll that they've taken, 75% are not renewing. Now, I'm not saying that that's a stat or that that's really going to happen, but this is the closest that I've felt since right before Jimmy Haslam bought the team to where they really are about to damage another portion of their season ticket audience. Because I think the combination of the fake Johnny Manziel hype and hoopla last year combined with the way the season ended and the way they've done free agency, I truly believe, more than usual, they have actually damaged their season ticket base a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if season tickets will not drop at least 10% in this offseason. I mean, we'll find out in a couple of months if I'm right about that or not, but I truly feel for the first time they are back on that verge where they were with Al Lerner and Randy Lerner, where the fan base was like, we're done with these guys. And then Jimmy bought the team right as the fan base was like, you know what, we're getting sick of this. And then that breath of fresh air, boom, everybody was excited. Now I think they feel one con job or another. And I'm telling you, I don't think, Bruce, it'll ever get to where they're drawing 10,000, but they may lose 5, 6, 7,000 off the season average this year. It's just the closest that I've seen to people actually putting their money where their mouth is. Let's find out after tomorrow's deadline passes how many people really did not renew their season tickets. But I really do feel for the first time in a while, especially with the Cavs and the optimism about the Indians as well, that for the first time in a long time, the Browns may actually get treated the way the play on the field, reflects in the box office. It'll never be totally fair, but I do think they're about to feel a little bit of a sting. And when I saw that, I rolled down the list, because what they did is they put the list up on the site. You guys can go look it up, and it tells you what the guy said. Here's a guy who said he's been a season ticket holder right at the top of the list, 26 seasons. He pays $1,500 for his tickets each. He's got 4 of them. That's $6,000 he pays a year. 26 years. He said, I'm not sending them a check this year. When you get somebody to not send a check that's been sending them for 20, 25, 30 years, you've done something wrong. Big Bob, I appreciate the conversation. I got to keep it rolling, my friend.
Love it. Keep it going, Big Daddy. Love you.
Great call.
Bye-bye.
Glad to have you through, my man. Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. You guys keep the conversation going. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll pick this right back up talking some more Indians. We were already on it. Let's just stick with it. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Plus, you know what? I know Mike's in the mood. Talk a little hoops, too, because the Cavaliers are on center stage tonight. This will be a good one tonight with the Spurs. Let's talk some Tribes, some Cavs, who knows what. I'll even talk a little bit about this ticket thing, too. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com joins us next, right here on the show. Don't forget, Doug Plagans, voice of the Lake Erie Monsters, coming up just about 45, 50 minutes from now, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Mike Brandenberry, coming back here on the Sports Fix.
How public service announcement from the Sports Fix. We here at the Sports Fix and our affiliates would like to apologize for any disturbing verbal actions, but remember, it's better having them trapped in a box than loose on the streets. Public service announcement from the Sports Fix. The Sports Fix, the sports show that cares.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Hey, Sports Fix fans, I'm Fred McLeod, TV voice of the Cavaliers. When I'm not busy taking elbows from my buddy Austin Carr, I'm tuning in to see what the guys are saying. Come on, Cavs!
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy say?
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Milo hit a three-pointer on the side.
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live on the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you. Jerry Myers here, clicking the dials and getting ready to be joined by Mike Brandenburg from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. We're going to pick up some Indians, some Cavs talk in a minute. Just quickly tagging off what I was saying at the end of the last segment. And I didn't even get into it, really, when we were talking about the free agency. But one thing we touched on a little bit yesterday, and now talk flying, literally flying in the air, heading to Philadelphia. DeMarco Murray, the Cowboys stud running back, probably the best running back in the NFL, heading up to Philly and has perhaps talked his way into the Eagles' plans, which makes no sense. And it's I don't know. I think, first off, I think Chip Kelly is trying to set the Cleveland Browns up for the okie doke, man. You guys, yesterday he gives this press conference about how, and he mentioned it 3 times, how this unnamed team offered a first-round draft pick for Sam Bradford, and we're not doing it. We're not making a trade. I'm telling you, I got a funny feeling that he is trying to subliminally convince the Cleveland Browns, since he said, I won't mortgage our draft for Marcus Mariota. He wants to mortgage the Browns draft for Marcus Mariota. He wants to trade Sam Bradford to the Browns for both of their first-round picks. So then Chip Kelly could trade the Browns picks to move up and get Mariota and still keep a first-round draft pick out of the deal. And he may just be able to convince those impatient sons of guns to do it because the Browns are known to run the market up on themselves every once in a while. But I'm telling you, keep that in mind. But DeMarco Murray to Philly makes no sense to me on a financial level. They dumped Shady McCoy because of all the money that he had, and they did it so they could sign, well, they thought they were getting Frank Gore, but instead they got Ryan Matthews. They picked up 2 defensive players, Kiko Alonso, also made the cornerback signing of Maxwell this weekend, freed up the money for that. Well, bringing Murray in, plus Matthews, plus you've got $4 million for Sproles that's still on there as well. You're now paying out more money at the running back position than you were before. Don't tell me Chip Kelly's this mad genius over there. I think he's flying without a plan too, and it's like fantasy football. He had his plan all together, and then some dude called him and said, "Hey, would you like a superstar running back?" And he goes, "Oh man, I can't turn down DeMarco Murray." Meanwhile, I didn't really plan on having DeMarco Murray. But anyways, we'll talk more about that later. But I still think Chip Kelly is setting not any team up. I've heard it speculated any team. No, I think he's setting up our team, the Cleveland Browns, to send him a package for Sam Bradford that he can then use to go get Mariota. I'm telling you, man. And he found a huckleberry. Let's see if he can make it happen, man. And wouldn't that be something? Chip Kelly coming back after the Browns again. All right, we're going to move on from that, guys. You keep the conversation going and let me know your thoughts on all of this. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Mike, baby, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I was listening to your intro there talking about the Browns. I feel like, in the last couple weeks, I feel like we've made great strides, Jerry. You're nearly on time. We're talking about baseball that is slowly and more becoming the matter. I guess spring training games don't really matter by terms of record or stats, but there's a point behind them. It's better than talking about the off season. The Cavs matter. So I feel like there's one last thing that I have to just convince you of. And can you please never talk about the Cleveland Browns while I'm on hold? It's painful. It's painful for me to sit there and listen to you talk about the Browns. I don't want to run your show for you, You go at it how you want, man. But if you just not talk about the Browns. I eat lunch right before I call you, and then my lunch starts to not settle well when you're talking about the Browns. Okay, how do you think I feel on the other end of the conversation? Because I have to say it, and I have to do it too. You don't think I wake up every morning going... You don't. That's the thing. No. See, that's the thing, man. I can only refrain for so long. It's not healthy. Then children get beaten and wives get tossed out on the street and all kinds of things happen that I can't go that route. I'm recovered as it is, man. I mean, come on. You really trying to send me down a path of darkness and violence, Mike Brandenberry? Huh? If I had your show, and I've said many times on your show, I know. We're having some fun. I'm obviously from a different world than you and most of your listeners, for sure. But if I had your show, I think at this point, I would just pretend like the Browns don't exist. I mean, even when people call. But if you got a call, I'd just be like, I'm not familiar with that team.
What is this team you referred to?
Calling.
What is this?
Yeah, thank you for calling. I remember them in a previous generation, but it doesn't ring a bell anymore with me. Yeah,
I hear you, brother. Look, Mike, I truly do. I understand, man. I really get where you're coming from. And you know what, actually, while we're kind of in this path, because you and I do like to talk at times in various sports, we've talked about the marketplace and the tickets and all of that stuff. I don't know if you heard before you called in. I was saying that going into the break, though, man. I saw, just looking at the poll on the plain deal. We always talk about what should happen with the Browns. How much coverage should they get? How many tickets should they be selling compared to the other teams and when you look at the product on the field. And it drives me nuts that the Cavs, well, not so much now, but before, and the Indians primarily, no matter who's on the team, have to do flips just to get you to pay attention that they're even there. And then they have to prove themselves to the fan base for years before the fan base starts coming around. And, you know, we know the story from down there. But money where the mouth is always the problem. Nobody ever does that because they still plop down that season ticket. They still plop. Dan Wismar, my man, just told us yesterday about dropping a $2,000 check to the Browns as 30, 25 years, however long he's been doing it. But I was talking about that poll that they took in the Plain Dealer and it was more than just, will you renew your tickets, yes or no? They actually asked a little detailed questions. How much do you pay? How long have you been? So on and so forth. And it is overwhelming the number of, I mean, there's some people that say yes, but it's overwhelming the number of no's. And what got me more was how many of them had double digits next to the total years that they had. It's one thing to say I'm done, but it'll be very interesting tomorrow. My gut tells me, like you and I mentioned before, right before Haslam bought the team, I thought that they were really about to lose a portion of the fan base. I feel like they're there again. I feel that the last 8 months, 10, not even 8, that last 7, 6 months or whatever have really done some damage here. And I really do believe it's not going to be enough to put a big 10,000 person dent in the stadium, but I do think it'll put a good 10-15% dent in the season ticket renewals this year for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, like we've talked about before, I think before Haslam bought the team, you know, the fan base was on edge, and I think it's right back to that edge. I think Jimmy Haslam had a grace period, and you can go ahead and that grace period has expired, and basically what they're left with is, you know, no quarterback, a meddling owner, and a front office that has no idea what they're doing or changes plans from, you know, not even month to month, but week to week.
We're on the non-plan plan, you know? We're on the non-plan plan. Yep.
But I think, you know, the thing with the Browns is, you know, the honeymoon is over for Jimmy Haslam and anyone that reports to Jimmy Haslam. And I agree with you. I think they're back to that questionable point where, you know, there is a chunk of people who maybe will maybe not stop being fans, but will stop paying the freight, will stop investing in tickets. And I think one big thing or two big things that can really lead to this, you know, we've talked about this in other avenues, how it'll affect the Indians, you know, with the return of LeBron and the Cavs becoming major factors. But if the Cavs go to the NBA Finals and, you know, God forbid they win the NBA finals this year, and there's a parade in Cleveland, and the Indians are the team that apparently everyone in the nation thinks they're going to be. If we've got two teams in this town that are winning, I have a hard time seeing as many people get excited to walk down the hill to the lake for their Sunday afternoon meeting come fall, after a parade and after hopefully a good Indian season. I just can't see as many people excited to head down for their weekly beating. And I think, you know, the Browns will, if the Cavs and the Indians come through with the seasons that we think they're on the brink of, I think that'll hurt the Browns tremendously.
I do. I really do. Look, it's not like the whole landscape is going to shift, but I really do feel that there's a lot of shifting tectonic plates underneath it now that it is going to...
There should be, for the record.
You're right.
I mean, there should be.
You're right, though. You are right, because it's going to be right. Look at the timing. If the Indians are doing what many people think, I know you're not as high as everybody, but if they're right, then they're going to be in position to hopefully reap that wave of, I mean, coming off of a parade. I mean, and I hate to say this because now we're projecting something that may not happen, but if that does happen, I don't
predict parades, but I like to sit around and think about what they'll be like.
But the wave of the feelings and all of that coming off of that, which you don't even know because it's never happened before, I could see it being very hard to go, ooh, boy, Josh McCown's about to throw some passes. You know what I mean? Like, the Indians are going to be in position to literally pick up from the crest of that wave and keep riding it. And that's why I'm very hopeful, even if the attendance isn't great early season for the Tribe, that the play is decent, because that'll set that up exactly what we're talking about, for the Indians to be the main beneficiary of whatever good vibes come from the Cavs playoff run. And I really think that's what we're looking at, what you said.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with all of what you just said. I think there are a million reasons why the Indians need to get off to a good start, and you can add that one right there to the list. Is I think it makes it very easy for them to ride the momentum coming off the Cavs. If the Cavs have a good spring and hopefully summer, and we're all downtown celebrating a parade on a Monday afternoon after winning the finals Saturday night. See, I told you that I sit around and
there will be no sports fix. There will be no sports fix that day, just letting you know that.
Yeah, there will be a lot of things that
we will not be around.
There will be a lot of
there won't be anything in Cleveland but the parade. I think Cleveland may close for a day. Like, they may just close the city.
I just like to envision TV. I won't be around to watch one because I'll be out celebrating too. But I just like to envision that if you were in Cleveland on the day of a championship parade, that if you turned your TV on, it no matter what channel it was on, you could click channel to channel to channel to channel. It would just be color bars. I just feel like
frozen over.
Color
Hell's
bars
frozen
and dial
over.
because there's no one at the station running the station. Like, the Cavs win the title, and everyone, all Clevelanders, just run into the streets in peaceful celebration. And
I got to be honest, if I was a Cleveland television news person here, I would have already recorded this, and maybe if you haven't, you can hear my voice and you'll get one more storm to do it. I'd have sent my weather or my sports guy out there in the middle of the worst storm and had him record the segment after the Cavaliers win, so that he could be standing in a storm going, well, hell is frozen over today, because Cleveland is celebrating a championship. I'm standing here downtown, and it's minus 13 degrees. Meanwhile, it's, 90 degrees outside. But anyways, that is something to speculate. And it's something that I think the Indians could be in good position for, with the team feeling good. To rehaul around the park, all of that stuff. Now, we did a great transition right into the Indians. I'll start with my conversation this morning. My man Len Williams out in Colorado has the Score Morning Show out on NBC Sports Radio, and he had me come on to do the Indians preview this morning, and we got to talking, and I'll tell you now, for the first time I laid out, I think I said 89, 90 wins is what I'm projecting for this Indians team. And of course, I obviously qualify that with the certain things that have to go right for that. But I do think that the Indians can most definitely win 3 or 4 more games than they did last season. And I've got the Tribe winning the division, not because they improved that much more over everybody else, but because of all the stuff that we've talked about. A little bit of coming back to the pack, a little bit of the Indians improving, but a couple of the things that are making me feel great, and I mentioned it earlier. It's early. You can't go nuts. But Brandon Moss and the way he's hitting the ball early says, man, if that guy can stay healthy, put him and a healthy Michael Bourne, those two pieces into this lineup, both being effective, and man, all of a sudden the offense for the Indians changes dynamically.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think Moss has looked good in the infancy of his debut.
Right, it's very early.
Sure, and and I think the Indians are doing the right thing. I mean, they take it slow early with all their players, and they should do that, and they're continuing to do that, especially with Moss. But I'm interested to see as spring training carries on. And they start to ramp guys up and get ready for the season. Can he come back and play multiple days? Is this a guy that, early in the season, I think we've talked about this before, are they going to be able to play him day after day after day, or is he going to have to get, an extra off day here and there? Is he a kind of guy who, maybe isn't available on a day game after a night game, or worry about cold weather and its effects on him? but in its infancy, yeah, in just the first couple games, to me, he's just what this offense is ordered, because as inconsistent as the offense has been, and in a lot of ways I don't think it's going to become much more consistent, but I think Brandon Moss can cure some of that, because he gives you another long ball threat. And, you know, if you can hit the ball deep and you can hit the ball out of the ballpark, you obviously don't need as many hits to score a run. You know, and I think that's really where the Indians struggled last year at times, and even in years before last year, when they struggle to score runs, is when they aren't hitting a number of home runs. And when you got to start stringing together 3 and 4 hits to plate one runner, you know, that becomes a lot of work. You know, all kidding aside, this isn't an easy game. So stringing together 3 or 4 hits to score a run becomes very, very difficult. When you can add Moss with Carlos Santana, you know, I think it's fair. I think it's very fair at this point to, you know, I would say expect around 50 home runs between the two of them. I mean, 25 each, roughly. I mean, that starts, and then you put in Yan Gomes somewhere behind that, and maybe you get to around a 70 home run threshold from those 3 guys that, you know, may very well hit, you know, 4, 5, 6 in your order. To me, that starts to fix some of those inconsistencies in your offense, and, you know, then we can really start getting crazy and start dreaming up scenarios like a healthy Nick Swisher and what he could give the Indians. And I mean, then you're just dabbling in crazy talk at that point. But in all seriousness, I mean, I do think a power bat and what Brandon Moss is a big help to the Indians' offense. And Michael Bourn, and maybe this is, you know, maybe I'm off base in this, but when the Indians signed Michael Bourn, I really felt, and like I said, maybe this is where I'm off base, but I really felt like for the first time since Kenny Lofton, the Indians were getting a player that could change the game once they got onto the base paths, and open up the offense by what they're doing on the base paths. You know, I don't think it's a secret that, you know, when Kenny Lofton was here in his prime, you know, guys saw better pitches. Pitchers made mistakes because they were paying attention to Kenny Lofton.
Absolutely.
And certainly that has not happened in any way, shape, or form since Michael Bourn was acquired. And now he's supposedly healthy, you know, has some of his speed back. And if he can do those things, again, I think he goes a long way towards helping this offense as a whole, and again, trying to, you know, alleviate some of those inconsistent moments. To me, their offense as a whole is not bad. The problem is there's not a lot of middle ground. It's all really good or it's all really bad. And, you know, half of their season last year, they scored 3 runs or less.
Yep.
And the two things, you know, the 2 guys that you brought up, in my mind, they can go a long way to taking those 81 games where they scored 3 runs or less and cutting that closer to in half. And, you know, with the pitching that they have and the bullpen that they have, I think on a lot of nights, if you can get 4 runs, provided those guys can catch the ball behind them, you know, they're going to win with 4 runs.
I agree with that. That's it. That's why I said those 2 and early returns there. You know, with Moss, I mean, and like you said, such a small sample size, but, you know, his first 3 hits, triple and 2 home runs, you're going, well, nice to see that early on. But it's just been, even Santana's not that guy where, how long has it been? It's been a minute since the, you know, Hafner, when he was going, where somebody walked up and Tribe fans could sit on the edge of their seat and go, man, this guy's going to jack one out of the park. You know what I mean? Like that kind of threat in the middle of the lineup. Yeah, Santana, he always gets there. He always gets those numbers, but it's not the same necessarily. You know what I mean? and just having that threat and having Bourne, like you said, in the middle of that there, causing it and distracting and all of that stuff, man. Like, those two make it dynamic. That's the word I keep going back to, much more than, moving the sticks or moving the posts and keeping it going one station at a time. All of those expressions that you use, man. And you know what? Talking about some of the other pieces that may play into that, and some of the younger guys, and some of the, I'm going to start right off with your guy, Holt. Man, Holt has been looking good here. And whether you're talking Holt, Lindor, all of these, I've been bringing it up all week with guys, man. What you like to see is that all of these guys whether you like this guy, I like Moncrief, he likes Walters, whatever it is, they're all giving you reasons to keep their name in the discussion. They're all going to make, or at least early on, playing like they're going to make these decisions a little bit difficult for the Indians, and that's what you want to see. That's all these guys can do, like we keep saying about Lindor, is make it as hard as possible. But all of those guys are showing things that not only are good for later, but they can help this team now. Your man Holt is sticking out more and more to me as somebody, especially when we get down to what are they going to do with all of these players in the same area.
Yeah, I'll continue my campaign for Tyler Holt for the 25th man. I think he, in all seriousness, he fills a number of roles that the Indians can really use off their bench. He's a positive defender, and for all the talk of Michael Bourne, increased speed and feeling better health-wise, I will have to see it to believe it, that he is going to be ever again a top-notch defensive center fielder that he was 2 or 3 years ago. I think your best-case scenario for Michael Bourne is he works his way back to being an average center fielder, because last year he defensively was one of the worst, and it's easy to blame injuries, and that's fine. But he's not getting younger. It's the one thing we can't improve is, you can't beat the calendar. You can't beat Father Time. And I think Tyler Holt goes a long way to being a guy who can play all three outfield positions, who plays it well, who has above average range. He can certainly be defensive replacement, whether it was for Michael Bourne. I think, if he were on the roster, he would spell guys in right field. However, that carousel works its way out with Murphy and Moss and Rayburn. I think Tyler Holt could be a defensive replacement for any of those guys when they're in the lineup. I think he provides speed on the base paths that could be utilized late in games. If this is a team that is going places and is going to win the division and contend for long October runs, you're going to play a lot of close games, and having a guy like Tyler Holt who can come in and play key, important defense and provide you speed on the base paths late in the game is huge. And those are two things that they really have not had in the last couple years. I think he fills a specific role, and I think he makes them better by being on their team. I will make the argument, or I'll make the case. He has a role where other guys who are veterans do not have roles. Tyler Holt fills those two roles and can make the Cleveland Indians better and a winner. I'm not sure you can say that today about David Murphy. And to me,
agreed.
I have a hard time seeing the Indians eat David Murphy's salary on opening day. If they can't work out a trade for him, I think Murphy will be on the roster, and it might be at Tyler Holt's expense. But I also think there'll be a point in the year that if they can't find a trade partner, the day is going to come where the Indians may have to cut ties with a David Murphy or a Ryan Rayburn. Right now, I think Murphy is the guy because he really doesn't have a role. But if Rayburn struggles like he did last year, he may play his way off the island too, in trade for a guy like Tyler Holt and or Carlos Moncrief. And I mean, Moncrief is a guy too. Yep. I've seen Moncrief play a lot, and I'll tell you, he has made great strides in his defense. And I'll give him a lot of credit. I almost didn't recognize him the first time I saw him on TV this spring, Jerry, because that guy has thinned out a lot. I think at points in his career, maybe they have hoped that he would become a little bit more of a power threat and maybe put some muscle on. He still looks pretty muscular, but man, he has really thinned out, and he's played center field as well a fair amount in the minor leagues, and I think he's a guy, he can very much fill a lot of the same role as Tyler Holt, and I won't be surprised if you see the roster transition from guys like David Murphy and Ryan Rayburn to guys like Carlos Moncrief and Tyler Holt as the season goes on.
Well, because that's the thing, and you have to have guys like Rayburn and Murphy until you know what you've got in the other guys that we're talking about, and then once you go, hey, wait a minute, these guys can fill, it's everything you just spelled out. Hey, Holt can do this, this, and this. Okay, now we're good. And I was talking with Dan Wismar a little bit yesterday about you and I. We talked last week looking at, like the Giants as a potential maybe a late spring trade. But with the Gavin Floyd injury, I thought, maybe that changes or adds another dynamic there too, because like a team like San Francisco, traditionally a pretty good place to go, look in the farm system for some pitchers and stuff like that, that maybe there may be a mutual need, whether it's them or another team, with a team that needs an outfielder. Hey, we may need to add some depth to this pitching, or there may be something there that ties in as well, Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible, but I have a hard time because Murphy doesn't have a role on the Indians. I have a hard time seeing the Indians get a lot in return.
Right, unless they
him.
Eat some of that salary you were talking about. Yeah.
Right, in nearly any kind of situation. I can't see a team giving a player off their major league roster. I can't see them giving a player that's near big league ready for him. I think, if you can move him, what you're getting back is getting rid of that salary and getting the roster spot. I mean, to me, as spring materializes and guys like Tyler Holt and Carlos Moncrief are emerging, I mean, the value in the roster spot, I think, is starting to become important, because carrying David Murphy without a real role, I think, is quickly becoming a hindrance as young players pass him. So I just have a hard time seeing them in any kind of trade get anything back that would help this roster. And I think if the Indians were to make some kind of trade, I don't know that they would go after, if they were going to add a pitcher, I don't think they would go after a young pitcher. As crazy as that sounds,
go after somebody like a Gavin Floyd.
Everybody in the world, right? Everybody in the world wants young pitching, and sure, the Indians would too.
Bartolo Colon,
they have a
like
ton
that,
of it, Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I don't know that the Indians are out, banging on the doorstep to acquire this guy, but a guy that I think would be a good fit for the Indians. And it's kind of funny how things work. That could kind of replace Gavin Floyd, and you might need the money from Murphy. You'd have to move Murphy to create the spot, but a guy that I like that would do everything they hoped they could get from Gavin Floyd is Aaron Harang, and he's with the Phillies. They're going nowhere fast. If Paul Hoynes has the term zombie baseball, if you don't understand what that is, just turn on a Phillies game. You'll understand it quickly, because that team already has pretty much bagged their season and it hasn't started. So, I think a guy like Aaron Harang is somebody that you can get for very little, would fill a role for the Indians, would kind of be a stabilizer in their rotation. I don't think he's not going to go out and lead your staff, but he will also, go out and give you a good effort every fifth day. It's kind of funny how those things work out, because, of course, he was in the Indians camp 365 days ago, and probably one of their mistakes, if you could ever, get them to admit it, was ever letting him out of their camp. But
listen, don't worry,
I mean,
man.
a guy like that.
A few months from now, if that doesn't work out, we can start having the Ubaldo conversation again, man. Don't worry. It all comes full circle, brother.
I'd like to file Ubaldo under the same category as the Cleveland Browns.
The Browns. I knew you were going to say
Don't talk about it. We don't acknowledge it.
No, I saw some people hit me up with that the other day. I actually got a few Ubaldo comments, and I'm like, wow, already we're going back there, man. But it's like Kendrys Morales. Kendrys Morales is the 10-year war when it comes to the trade deadline. Every year for 10 years, Kendrys Morales is somebody that you can do a week of sports talk radio around the trade deadline, his name is going to be in there for the Indians every year. It's been, it's just
Josh Willingham.
Willingham. They just live there. Yes.
Yeah.
They just live there.
We've been clamoring for Josh Willingham to save the world for 5-10 years.
And then, of course, by the time we get them, then they're Johnny Damon. Then they've got nothing left in the tank and all of that stuff, man. But anyways, hey, while I got a few more minutes with you here, I said before where I was at with the season. What do you think, man? How realistic is that? I mean, I didn't want to be all happy homer and all that, but I thought, realistically, I do see this as about an 89 or 90 win team.
I think it's realistic. I'm not sure, as I keep saying, I'm not sure that I'm as big of a believer in that.
You're like 85, 86, right?
I really.
In that area?
What's that?
You're like 85, 86. You're like in that area.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm trying hard. I'm trying hard. I have conversations with myself. I ask myself, in 2007, I really felt that team, I mean, in spring training and before the season started, I thought that team had the potential to go to the World Series. And I remember telling people that, and people looked at me like I was from Mars. And there was nothing about that season as it unfolded that surprised me. I mean, I guess, surprised me that Fausto Carmona, walked on water that year. But the fact that they won the division, and went to the LCS and had every chance to go to and win the World Series, I was not surprised by that. I thought that was on the table. And I have conversations with myself now. Am I missing what everyone else seems to see so clearly? Because I feel like it's 2007 in reverse. I think this is a good team. I really do. I guess where I continue to be hung up is I feel like, a year ago I asked the question over and over and over again, how do you let 2/5 of your rotation go and act like it's no big deal? And I said, what happens if Danny Salazar doesn't solve their problems? This year I feel like, the same kind of issue is we just keep acting like the defense is going to be fixed because Jose Ramirez is better as shortstop than as Jaball Cabrera. And I know you jumped in a little bit, but I asked that question on Twitter the other day, and it was all predicated from of all people, it was Buster Olney who tweeted after Jose Ramirez made a very nice play in the hole and threw a runner out, said, nice play by Jose Ramirez of the Indians. He is one of the reasons why their defense will be much improved. And my whole conversation on Twitter began with, what are the other reasons? Because I don't see it. And I'll be honest, most of the reasons or the excuses that I heard, I don't buy into. To me, the worst reason is that they'll be better at first base with Carlos Santana.
Yeah, that's where
Carlos Santana is the second worst first baseman in the American League. You know who's the worst? Nick Swisher. You're not really getting better. You're just less awful is the best way I can describe it. The same thing. I hear the rationale that Jason Kipnis is going to be better defensively because he's not hurt. Well, that would be great, but he wasn't hurt in 2013, and he wasn't very good defensively either. I just feel like we've fixed 1/9 of the problem. And, many of the huge glaring problems, Carlos Santana is a below average first baseman. Kipnis is below average. Chisenhall is below average. Everyone that will play right field is below average. Michael Bourne is below average. That's a lot of the defense, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed from last year, and I cannot believe that this is going to be a 90-win team or a division winner, and they can't catch the baseball. I can't wrap my head around it. I hope to be wrong. I really do. And I'll tell you, in part of my conversation, one of the guys that responded to me was, well, I'm just hoping that last year was an outlier. And so I went and looked it up, and my assumption was correct, is it wasn't an outlier, it's the trend. Last year was just an outlier in the fact that the Indians were the worst defense. They've been 24th or worse every year back to 2008. And guess what? They had a good defense in 2007 and 2008. And they had a pretty decent baseball team. And as much as we maybe don't want to admit it, they haven't been very good since then. And I don't think it has everything to do with defense, but I do think that they're connected. I mean, maybe the outlier is the year that they won 92 games and made the wild card. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that they can be that bad at any one aspect of the game and still be a 90-win team. If I can see it, I'll believe it. When they catch the baseball with regularity, if they're just average, I think this team is exactly what you said. I think they're a division winner and a 90-win team if they can catch the ball. But I can't buy into it yet.
That's a place to go next week. All right, you just gave me one of the places we're going to get into next week. You know, we're going to talk about that.
I will say, and I tweeted this the other day too. I think I'll give everyone who wants to argue against me that their defense is somehow magically fixed. The one elixir that I'll really listen to that I think is different is if you have a rotation that has Corey Kluber and Carlos Carrasco and Danny Salazar and Trevor Bauer, those are four guys that get a lot of strikeouts. And if you go to a bullpen that's hard throwers of Shaw and Allen, and you're using them a lot like they were used last year, that's a lot of strikeouts. And if you can get, on an average night, if you're recording half of those 27 outs going in the catcher's glove, that's 12 or 13 or 14 plays that the guys behind don't have to make.
And to peg right onto that, that's an excellent point, Mike, because that is a lot of the improvement I think you're pointing at in the second half of last season defensively as well. Is look at how high the strikeouts were. There was a ton of strikeouts, man. There was a lot of Ks being thrown, and that instantly takes less opportunities to make errors off the board, and it improves artificially the way the defense looks. That is an excellent point.
And in fairness, before their rotation kind of evolved, I mean, if you go back, guys like Justin Masterson and Ubaldo and, to an extent, Scott Kazmir, those guys are all ground ball pitchers. They're trying to get, even if you go back farther, go back to, God forbid, the Derek Lowe year. Those guys are all enticing ground balls. They're enticing their own bad defense behind them.
Yes, exactly.
So, it's a different rotation for sure. To me, that's the one saving grace that I'll listen to at this point as to how their defense is magically better with all the same pieces.
All right, Mike, we know where we're going to pick up next week. We'll be just a couple of weeks away from opening day, my friend. Anything, what's on tap for the DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com this week?
Well, we are going right down through the rotation and looking at all the options this week and guys that, made surprise. And I think, probably by the time I'm on next week, I feel like all the contenders, no one is sprinting out of the pack. And I would love if, by this point next week, someone or someones would emerge, in that fifth starter spot and kind of to absorb, what was supposed to be Gavin Floyd's spot. But
I was hoping Salazar kind of showed me a little pep in the step yesterday, like, hey, opportunity just opened up even more. But we'll see. I'm with you. Hopefully by this time next week, a couple of guys are starting to emerge from the pack.
It would be good, and I think, to go along with that whole defensive question, I think Danny Salazar is a huge key because the more strikeouts you get, the the less work the defense has to do behind you. And if you're going to guys like TJ House, that's going to be counterproductive to the defense because they're going to have to make outs behind TJ. So, we'll see. Danny Salazar is a guy who definitely, I think, needs to emerge, for this team to be successful.
Mike Brandenburg, didthetryWinLastNight.com is the website. He's with us every week talking Indians baseball. Next week, as you said, we'll see how that rotation's coming along. We'll talk about the defense a little more, and we'll be a couple weeks closer to spring training. Mike Brandenburg, have a good one, my friend. Looking forward to catching up with you next week.
Sounds good. Go Cavs. Big game tonight.
You got to enjoy that Cavs game tonight, man. It's going to be a big one with the Spurs. Be a lot of fun, too.
For sure. Looking forward to it.
You got it. Mike Brandenburg. Have a good one, my man. Mike Brandenburg from didthetryWinLastNight.com. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Doug Plagans of the Lake Erie Monsters joins us next after the news here on the Sports Fix.
We here at the Sports Fix want to make all of your dreams come true.
What about my dream?
Edith, I told you I can't build your candy house. It will fall down. The sun will melt the candy. It won't work.
It will if it never rains.
Oh, maybe not all of them. Get your fix on the Sports Fix.
This is head coach Gary Waters at Cleveland State, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting. Pro Bowl running back DeMarco Murray is visiting with the Eagles today with the expectation he'll sign with Philadelphia. Besides the money, the Eagles are most appealing to Murray because he believes they have a chance to win. Murray, though, would consider a final last-minute offer from the Cowboys. However, he is going to Philly with the intention of signing with the Eagles. The Buccaneers signed defensive tackle Henry Melton and safety Chris Conte. The Bills are expected to continue their visit with receiver Percy Harvin today, according to ESPN's Josina Anderson. The Bears agreed to 3-year contracts with safety Antrell Roll and receiver Eddie Royal. Quarterback Darrelle Revis on a late-night conference call said he followed his heart in returning to the Jets, and it was not a hard decision to leave the Patriots. He declined to say if New England made a competitive offer. The Jets, of course, signed Revis to a 5-year, $70 million contract earlier this week. NBA Thunder coach Scott Brooks says the team expects Kevin Durant to return from a procedure to alleviate soreness in his surgically repaired right foot in a week or two.
Subway is bringing you a most flavorful sandwich with the new Turkey Italiano melt. Oven-roasted turkey and savory Italian meats topped with melty provolone and drizzled with new Subway vinaigrette. These taste unite in a fresh toasted sandwich like no other. The Turkey Italiano melt. Subway. Eat fresh.
Now, back to the Sports Fix. Feel like a monster.
The secret side of me, I never let you see. I keep it caged, but I can't control it. So stay away from me, the beast is ugly. I feel the rage and I just can't hold it. It's scratching on the walls, in the closet, in the halls. it comes away again. I can't control it. Hiding under the bed, in my body, in my head. Why won't somebody come and save me from this? Make it end. I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. I must confess.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Stop yelling at me, Skillet. I'll turn that down a little bit. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on with the Sports Fix. Thanks to Mike Brandenberry. Great conversation. Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. Supposed to be joined by Doug Plagans of the Lake Erie Monsters, having a little technical difficulty getting through to him now. Hopefully Doug can join us here in the next few minutes before we wrap things up. Monsters and Doug, of course, right now as we speak, down in the Lone Star State, Texas, taking on Texas and San Antonio. A 4-game Texas getaway here. Did not start well for the Monsters last night. They got a couple of goals in the third period to make it competitive, but 6-4, Texas knocked off the Monsters. Of course, both teams in the outside looking in position when it comes to the playoffs, and it's no good at all to give up points and standings here to a team directly in front of you. Monsters did not help their playoff cause at all, dropping this one here. They've got 2 coming up back-to-back with San Antonio, and then they finish this trip up with a rematch from last night's game with the Texas Stars once again. Monsters desperately need a couple of victories, desperately need as many points as possible on the rest of this swing here before they head back to the queue. Part of that just because it's the nature of the beast, and part of that because of the difficulties that they had during that last homestand, that 8-gamer that they just wrapped up, even though they kind of salvaged the end of it with the couple of games there against Chicago. Hopefully Doug can join us. If not, hey, I apologize about the technical difficulties. My man's about 5,000 miles away right now, so we'll hold on Doug. Meanwhile, a couple of things that happened during the break that I get to swing back around here too. The Browns have announced a free agent signing of a quarterback. Guess what? He played here before. Thaddeus Lewis, former developmental quarterback, backup quarterback for the Browns. He was here in 2011, 2012, has been re-signed by the Cleveland Browns here today. He has spent the majority of his career on the practice squad. He did get some stuff going with Buffalo. What did he do last year? I think he started 5 games for Buffalo last year. About 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Did relatively decent for them, filling in there when things fell apart at the quarterback position for them. He did have 1 start for the Browns, his first start for the Browns, last game of that terrible 2000. Oh, remember that terrible 2012 finale? Against Pittsburgh, 22 of 32, 204 yards, touchdown and an interception. The 6'2", 200-pound quarterback comes to drop his name in the. I got to tell you right now, Thaddeus Lewis is the best quarterback the Browns have right now. I'm just going to put that out there. As crazy as that sounds, because you might think I'm mocking the signing here, Thaddeus Lewis, in my opinion, has instantly become the front runner to win this thing. If it's a 3-dog race coming into training camp, I'll tell you now, maybe, McCown's the 3rd horse in this race, man. I think I'll take rehabbed Manziel over him. But Thaddeus Lewis is probably the safest. If I'm a Browns fan, I'd feel more comfortable with Thaddeus Lewis than Josh McCown, but neither one of them keeps anybody up at night, except the Browns coaches and Browns fans, all of us. It keeps you up at night in the wrong way, but not exactly keeping defensive coordinators up late at night. But Thaddeus Lewis coming home, I guess, following the coming home thing. Anyways, Browns just announced that latest free agent signing for him. He comes from Houston. What's up with the flip-flopping of the quarterbacks here, man? Hoyer goes there. He comes here. Anyways, Thaddeus Lewis, newest signee for the Cleveland Browns. Man, a couple other things here. Obviously, the big thing tonight, the Cavaliers and the Spurs, Quicken Loans Arena, or excuse me, not Quicken Loans Arena, the Cavaliers away from Quicken Loans Arena here for the Texas trip. Then they bounce over to Florida for Orlando and Miami coming up. Cavaliers' only meeting earlier this season was in Quicken Loans Arena against the Spurs, but as we mentioned yesterday, talking with Eddie Jansen, that's a lifetime ago for both teams, but primarily for the Cavaliers. That was the 10th game of the season in that one. The leading scorer for the Cavs was Anderson Varejao in that one. Whole different everything for the Cavs since then. This is going to be a really good one here to see how they, look, nobody expected them to do what they did in Dallas against the Mavs. You're not going to do that against the Spurs. They're not going to do that against the Spurs. They're going to have to go down there and play the Spurs game and win it. This is another great barometer, good check-in point for the Cavs and for where the Cavaliers are here in this one. What do we got? Is it 9:30 the tip-off for tonight? It's a later tip-off because I know we're national TV. Yeah, 9:30 is the tip-off for tonight. Center stage in the basketball world. This one's going to be on TNT television. Both teams coming in. Seems to be everybody healthy for both squads. I know Manu Ginobili was day-to-day there for a minute, but he should be good. Sean Marion, the only person injured for the Cavaliers here. And all the drama, the storylines about LeBron versus the Spurs, I don't really get into a whole bunch of that, but in his career, LeBron James, you'll hear this stat once or twice tonight, he's played 17 career games in San Antonio, and he has lost 12 of the 17 there. Also, he has his worst regular season scoring average against any Western Conference team is against the Spurs. The Spurs obviously play very well. Kawhi Leonard, very big part, but that whole sound defensive strategy that they have plays into it. They do a good job rotating, get a lot of good help. Tim Duncan, like I said, Kawhi Leonard, a big part of that. Leonard's a good man-up defender, good young talent that they got there in him. You got Splitter, a whole bunch of guys that team up there, play good. Danny Green, you got a lot of guys that rotate and play that good defense. But clearly, that when you're not just talking about a game or two, you're not talking about a small trend. They obviously have a very good defensive plan all the way back. We know. The Cavs played right into the Spurs' hand 8 years ago when they did the NBA Finals thing the first time, and the Spurs throughout their career. And as we know, the Spurs began the process that led us to right here, because I truly believe, I think we all know, that without what happened last year in the NBA Finals, perhaps LeBron stays in Miami for another year. Perhaps none of this stuff happens, and maybe we're not sitting here 41-25. Maybe we're sitting here 25-41 and going, well, if we win 8 of the last 10, we can slip into the 8th spot of the playoffs and all of that. Yeah, those fun conversations, the ones that get countered with, but if we lose 8 of the 10, then we can get in the lottery and we can go draft another guy. I'd much rather go, hey, let's see how good we can play against the Spurs. So thank you for what you did last year. Now we're going to have to go out here and beat you. And we'll see what the Cavs can do tonight. San Antonio is 40-23. They sit. This was kind of like we talked about Dallas, a very similar record. Cavs 41-25, Spurs 40-23. Cavaliers second place in the Eastern Conference. Spurs with the same number of wins there, one difference in the win column, and they're sixth in the Western Conference. Just such a deep conference over there. The other day, San Antonio coming off of a victory against Toronto. Toronto continuing to slip after how well they started this past season. But the other day, they took care of business at home against Toronto. Big game for Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker in that one. The one thing is, talking about injury, Tony Duncan expected to play, but he does have, he hyperextended his left elbow in that last game. So that may be something to keep an eye on there. San Antonio has won 10 straight in this series. That streak goes back to when LeBron played here in Cleveland the first time, carries over through the Miami years and on into now. So it'd be nice for the Cavs if they can go out there and snap that 10-game losing streak to the Spurs. Will he or will he not wear a helmet, a headband when he goes out there? And believe it or not, I had another story next to me that had the word helmet in it. Don't know where that came from. But anyways, will he wear the headband tonight? Will he not? That'll be one silly question people can ask each other. But coming into this one, both teams pretty hot. 7-3 in their last 10 for the Cavs, 6-4, but 6 in a row for San Antonio, 2 in a row here for the Cavaliers since that loss to Atlanta. Cavs 17-16 on the road. San Antonio, one of the best teams in the league at home, 24-7. Both teams averaging nearly the same amount of points. Cavaliers actually average about 1.5 points more a game, but defensively, the Spurs put the lockdown even more than the Cavs. The Cavs, remember just a few weeks ago, the Cavs defense was giving up nearly 101 points a game. since all those trades in the last month or so, Cavs defense now averaging 98 points a game on the season, which is actually really significant. That's what all those blowouts have done, is whittled that away, because that's to lose 3 points on your average over a month and a half is very hard. That means you're actually holding teams well below that many times. That's a very good mark there for the Cavs. But San Antonio, they're a point better than the Cavs, giving up only 97 points a game. This should be a marquee game. Two of the top teams. If the Cavs want to find out what they got, you do it when you take on a team like the Spurs, man. This is going to be a heck of a lot of fun tonight. There's lots of basketball. Obviously, all the conference tournaments are going on all over the place. Speaking of that, the Big Ten tournament, mentioned it earlier on here in the show. Buckeyes now know who they're going to play tonight. If the Buckeyes want to make it through the Big Ten tournament, they've now got to win their way out. They've got to win 4 games in 4 days. They've got Minnesota now, 8:30 tonight. So actually, you get about an hour head start on the Browns, or excuse me, the Browns. I don't even know why they're at the top of my head, because I just got a blurb about Thaddeus Lewis over here on my phone. Breaking news about Thaddeus Lewis. But anyways, it starts tonight, 8:30. You got about an hour head start on the Cavs game to watch OSU in Minnesota. If, as expected, the Buckeyes survive the Gophers here, number 3, Michigan State awaits the winner of this. Beyond that one, on the other half of the bracket, there's Northwestern, Indiana. The winner of that will take on Maryland, and the winner of that will await the winner of the Buckeyes bracket. So it's still a whole, really, you've got to win 4 games in 4 days starting now. Buckeyes are guaranteed to go dancing no matter what, but it definitely would take a I think it would take winning the tournament to get you up there outside of the 5, 6, 7 seed range. You win the Big Ten tournament, you can probably bump yourself up into the top 16 there and get one of those top 16. I could be wrong about that, but I think winning the Big Ten tournament would get you up into a top 4 seed somewhere. But we'll see. It starts tonight. You can't even get to 4 games from now. You got to start tonight. You got Buckeyes, you got Cavaliers, hoops, of course, Indians baseball here just a little bit from now this afternoon. They play again, Kansas City today. And who do we got hitting the hill for the Cleveland Indians? You got Nick Marone on the mound today. You've got Brian Shaw, Scott Downs, Anthony Swarzak back out there again, Charles Brewer, C.C. Lee, all scheduled to pitch here today for the Indians in this one. So should be a lot of fun, tons of things to get into, and to come back and talk about tomorrow as we wrap up the week. We can talk about whatever the next blockbuster free agent signing for the Cleveland Browns is. I want to see what happens to DeMarco Murray. Perhaps by the time we get back here tomorrow, DeMarco Murray may have gotten things settled there and ended up in Philly. I'm telling you, beware of Chip Kelly now, because he's selling magic beads to somebody, and I got a funny feeling that person's name is Ray Farmer. I'm telling you, and the reason I say this is you got to realize, was it just a month ago that at the Combine, the St. Louis Rams stood there, and just like Chip Kelly did yesterday, they told you that not only were they not trading Sam Bradford, but he was the starting quarterback for 2015 for their team. They were set at quarterback. And obviously, they were a bit disingenuous about that. I think the fact that Chip Kelly said first-round draft pick from another team several times yesterday, and then used I'm telling you, he's going to yuck it up later if he ends up doing this. But he said, we will not mortgage our future. That does not mean that we will not mortgage your future if you're willing to trade us some picks. And I think that he's trying to convince the Cleveland Browns right now that he already turned down a first-round draft pick. So you're going to have to come better than that if you want to get Bradford. And then he's going to flip those draft picks around, move up, and get the guy that he wanted all along, man. And if that's the case, Browns, then just do it yourself. I'm not encouraging that, but that would be the only thing that would look worse to me than the Browns trading a bunch of picks to move up at the top of the draft and take another quarterback, would be for the Browns to help facilitate another team making that same move, and all the Browns get out of it is Sam Bradford. That would be even worse than watching them do it and end up with Mariota, would be watching them do it and end up with Sam Bradford instead, because that could be what may be coming. But maybe not. I got to think that all of that can slow down with, as crazy as this sounds, with the signing of Thaddeus Lewis, because you do now have 4 quarterbacks that are most likely going to be in the mix here. I mean, although, what's to stop it from bringing in 5 or 6? What the hell? I may want to try out at quarterback this year for the Cleveland Browns before it's all done. But maybe that really slows all that down. Maybe, hopefully, they say this is what we're going. I know it's not ideal. I mean, goodness gracious. You got a guy who went 1-10, a guy who's in rehab, and a career practice squad quarterback. And then you got Connor Cooper Shaw over there too. I just threw in a middle name for him because I figure he's got to have something to make him stand out there. So I'll give him a middle name. But yeah, the fun that it is. We're just gonna keep things moving here. And Doug Plagans was supposed to join us. I apologize, not able to get back with him. I don't know what happened. I know Monsters are literally in practice right now as we speak, and communication was a little bit difficult. Promise next week we'll get Doug Plagans back in the mix here and keep things going, guys. A couple of other things here. We're going to end up short. I've got to get ready to go do my game. But by the way, as we're speaking here, I'm a little bit distracted. I'm getting hit with messages about my broadcast this evening. Of course, doing my own version of March Madness tonight out at Menor, or I'm doing the Menor High School game tonight. It's the playoffs. Menor and Warren Harding, they're having all kinds of IT difficulties right now, trying to figure out how and where I'm going to broadcast from. All I know is I'm going to be there. I'll be broadcasting from somewhere, but yeah, they're just driving me crazy here. If you guys want to check it out, should be a great game. Couple of really good squads going at it. Of course, Menor are one of the best teams in this area, point blank. They've got a great prospect, a big-time college prospect in Micah Potter. Kid's gotten 40-plus a couple of times here this season. I called one of their games earlier. Menor, a big, strong squad. Menor, Warren G. Harding tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off. You can hear me on 1330 a.m. or if you're not in Northeast Ohio, you can stream it online, wintradio.com, or TuneIn. As many of you listen to the show right here on TuneIn, you can do that. Just look up 1330 WINT. Guys, because of that, I'm going to get ready to call it a break here and call it a day here and go figure out what in the world is going on with my broadcast this evening. Again, I apologize for those of you that were waiting for Doug Plagans to join us, and we'll get Doug back in on the show with us. Of course, the Monsters off tonight. They continue their road trip tomorrow. We will preview that tomorrow, along with the sports writer extraordinaire, Jonathan Knight, talking some Indians and Browns and Cavs. We got this big one tonight to talk about, the Cavs and the San Antonio Spurs. Buckeyes, did they advance? Are we previewing Sparty and the Spartans tomorrow in the next round of the Big Ten tournament? We'll talk about that. We've got Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. We'll talk about the signing of Thaddeus Lewis, whatever else may or most likely may not happen by the time we come back here tomorrow, and so much more, guys. So enjoy it. Again, thanks you guys for being with us. Thanks to Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTryWinLastNight.com. Thanks to you guys on Facebook and Twitter and the phones, and thanks to Len Williams for having us on NBC Sports Radio this morning in Colorado, talking some Indians. We've talked a lot of Indians today, feeling good about that. Getting ready to go watch a few minutes of that before I head out to my game, call some high school hoops tonight, and then be back here tomorrow to do the Sports Fix thing. Same bat time, same bat channel, you know it. Live at noon, baby, right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Fix.
Streets we hustle, don't sleep out here in Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland.
Okay, now here we go. Welcome to the Cleveland show, but this ain't no cartoon. Reality is all we know. You tuning in to Bravo. Yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal. You can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Modell tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them kids to cardiac. Rock Cars, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra.
Cleveland.